you need to decide on moral principles that will guide you on your life's journey. Morality can be described as attributes such as having integrity, being honest, looking out for those who are more vulnerable than yourself, and doing the right thing even when others aren't watching you. It's not quite as exciting as some other topics you see on YouTube. Compared to something like wealth acquisition, learning to develop 1 million in a year, it's not as exciting as that, but it's more important. In this age, we're very focused on acquisition, what we can get. How do I increase my wealth? How do I increase my attraction to women? These things are important, undoubtedly. But the moral framework is at your core. It's your center, and it will keep you grounded throughout the journey of life. I liken it to an adventurer being out in the wilderness, and they look up at the sky and they see the North Star, and that's like their compass. It guides them. When we don't have morals, and I used to lack them as well, I used to lie a lot, for example, we're adrift. We don't have a clear framework which allows us to know what to do in certain situations. Once we develop that morality, we do have that guiding light in the sky that will help us on our journey. One thing you may be wondering is, why bother spending the time to develop moral standards for yourself? Why should you do this? And particularly when you see other people potentially getting the life they want, whilst also lying, cheating, and treating others with disrespect. One of the biggest reasons to develop a sense of morality is so that you can look back on your life with pride. It's not only about what you've achieved, but it's also about the way you've achieved those things. Whether you've treated people well, or whether you've treated people with disrespect. Whether you've lied to get there, or whether you've told the truth. I think a lot of people who've taken shortcuts in life will ultimately look back with regret on their lives. I think one of the other key factors is, as I said, it's like a North Star when you have clear moral values. It guides you in your life, and it makes life a lot simpler. When I used to lie, there's always that questioning of, will I get found out? And it just also doesn't feel good within your core. You feel bad when you lie. So that's a simple, a selfish reason to avoid it, but it's a strong reason nonetheless. Also, when you start acting with integrity and you treat people well, your self-image improves. You look in the mirror and think, that's a decent person, or at least someone who's trying the best to improve to be a decent person. You absolutely don't need to be perfect right now, but it's about making progress towards being someone who has good moral standards of themselves. And as your self-image develops, your self-esteem picks up and your self-confidence does too. And this is like a domino effect in your life. Now, because you're treating people well, treat people with honesty, it's a lot harder to accept people treating you in a negative way. So you won't get into as many toxic friendships or relationships. You now have the standards to be able to say, no, look, I hold myself to this level, and I'm going to need you to be on the same level as me for anything to work here. So I think that's something that I've felt in my life, and it is really positive. Also, it just makes life a lot simpler. It's a lot less stress on you. Because I know now that if I'm in a situation, all I have to do is tell the truth. For example, it might be at work. I've made a mistake and it's lost the company some money. Before, I would have been deliberating in my head. Oh, should I tell them? What should I do? And yeah, that still does creep in a bit, but now I always try to tell the truth, and it's a lot easier because although it's uncomfortable and there's the fear of punishment, for example, fear of being fired potentially, it's just a lot simpler because all you're controlling is, I'm going to be honest and tell the truth. And then the consequence is really out of your control. This leads on to another point. When we habitually lie to others, what starts happening is we begin hiding ourselves from the world. Our intention is to hide the bad parts of ourselves, but we also hide what is good and what makes us unique. And I think also it's more complex than that. I think you need both the good and the bad parts of yourself to come together, because that's what makes an authentic whole person that people can actually connect with. As well, when you start lying and maybe trying to hide yourself from others, perhaps because you're embarrassed about something you do, you fear judgment from others. As you start doing this, your sense of self diminishes. You become less likely to pursue your dreams and your goals because you start lacking that trust in yourself and fearing what other people think. But when you actually start just being honest and say it's something that's not socially acceptable as much for your age group. So if I was like, I went ballroom dancing, people might think, oh, that's a bit strange for someone your age. But I've been honest, I've shared myself to the world, and I'm going to, one, feel better about myself, and I'm also going to get positive feedback, and I'm going to start connecting with people who are interested in the same thing. So there are so many benefits from adopting this new perspective where you always try to be honest and express yourself openly. I know it's more about what I'm talking about is more about your sense of self potentially, but it also does link to having those moral standards where you start sharing authentically who you are. So how can you start to develop your morality? It's like anything else. It's like training in the gym. You begin to progressively develop and push yourself more and more. If you're a compulsive liar and you lie every day, what you can start by doing is one day a week, you're going to try and tell the truth as much as you can. This then slowly builds up. You can do 2 days a week, 3 days a week. And even if you do drop back, it's still progress. And that's one thing I think a lot of people forget. It's about making those small incremental changes that are going to change the person you are and make you a better person. And you can fall back, that's normal. You're not going to switch habits like these overnight. I think I'd also add the caveat that with something like telling the truth, I'm not saying to just share everything with everyone. If you're a person who used to wet the bed until they were 16, you're not going to go and tell everyone. Apply some common sense to the situation. But if someone's asked, what did you do at the weekend? And you feel embarrassed about what you did, just try and tell the truth. And you'll realise there's actually, even if people judge you, there's no suffering, no harm to you. It's just judgment, and it doesn't really matter. You can sit there with contentment because you've told the truth and you should be proud of yourself for doing that. Another thing is having a clear vision of who you want to become and what your values are. I've obviously shared a few of mine during this video, but they vary greatly from person to person. Some people might have a stricter code of ethics, but someone might be slightly looser, and that's fine. It's just doing what you're comfortable with and having an approach that you will ultimately be proud of when you look back on your life. I'd like to finish the video by leaving you with a few actionable steps that you can apply in your own life. Firstly, identify the person you want to become and what values that person has. Then practice living with integrity, making sure you're living according to your values and that your actions reflect that. Then, over time, you'll begin to slowly develop more of a moral compass that will help you in life and ultimately guide you on your journey. Hope you got something from this video, and try to do the best you can to live a life that you're going to be proud of.